is out at Montana State. NBA Finals Game 4 tonight. And somebody's going golfing and hoteling in Three Forks. It is Tutel Nuanez 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting to you live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. You are listening to us on your radios around Western Montana on ESPN. You are listening to us and watching us on SWX Montana Television across the state. Live there. Great to be with all of you and around the globe on YouTube. Tutel Nuanez YouTube channel. Go check that out. You can see us there as well. Great to be with everyone. Hope you are having a fantastic day. A Friday heading into the first weekend in June. How about that? This counts the first weekend in June, right? I guess maybe technically last weekend was the first and second weekend in June. Whatever it is. It's going to be a great one. Why? Because it's a dang weekend. That's why, people. You want to watch us, listen to us live, you don't have a radio, maybe you're out of market, you go to the stream. Stream's available at 1029ESPN.com. It is there thanks to Opportunity Bank, your local bank, your opportunity. And if you'd like to call us, please feel free, 329-1899. All guests join us via the Rangich Brothers RV phone line. Lots of things going on today. We're going to talk about Kris Murray. He is no longer at Montana State. We thought that his career was going to be over the first time that he left. He returned and is not eligible once again, and so he is gone again, and this looks like to be the final chapter of the Kris Murray story at Montana State, so we will discuss that. We have a number of guests coming through here today, which I am looking forward to. We will have Jayton Simpson and perhaps Josh Jones, the Garden City 3-on-3 coming up. Last day to register is Monday, so they're going to come in here, talk to us about that. Another great 3-on-3 tournament in the city of Missoula. We also are going to, at 4:45, have our Mattress Firm Student of the Year. That's right. We've done the Student of the Week all year long. Mattress Firm has their Student of the Year. It is Faith Edmister from Great Falls High, and also she is going to the University of Montana, and she's getting a $3,000 scholarship from Mattress Firm. So she's going to be in studio with us. She came down to sign up for classes this week. How great is that? So she's on her way to school, and so she's going to be in here to talk to us, which will be great. Top of the hour, got a bunch of things. We got to get into Game 4, obviously, of the NBA Finals, which is tonight. The return of Klay Thompson, the non-return still of what's his name? Oh yeah, Kevin Durant. Remember that guy? Yeah, not a very well-known player.
Well, I'd like to forget him at this point.
We also are going to hear from our dear friend Carolyn, the chick who doesn't know about sports, going to be with us telling us about sports, ironically. And, yes, we are going to give away, stay and play giveaway over there to Three Forks. So plenty of things going on in the show today. Before we go one step further, it's a Friday, people. You need a little bit of energy. You need a little pick-me-up. It's a little rainy in Western Montana. Maybe it's nice where you're at. Hey, stop by a Florence Coffee Company coffee kiosk. Got myself an iced vanilla latte. Colton, you went with the matcha today, an iced matcha tea?
Yum.
And Tommy about fell over with excitement when I gave him his triple Americano. Thrilled to death that he could have that thing back in hand. He needed that badly. Is it still there, Tommy? You still working on it, or is it gone already? Tommy's gone.
I'm just sitting here in ecstasy. And I can't communicate with you right now because I'm so excited.
Great. Got it. Thank you, Tommy.
You changed my day.
I'm happy.
The trajectory of the next week.
Yeah.
Perhaps even my willingness to continue to work on this show.
Well, we credit the Florence Coffee Company with Tommy's continued employment.
Every Friday, Tommy gets to experience the one moment when he gets to be like Ryan Tutel, where Tommy forgets he's getting his Americano every week.
Every week.
And then he gloriously embraces when it appears.
Yeah.
It's just like Ryan forgets everything that's going to happen, and then he's surprised and aghast and floored every time anything happens.
Every day at 3:59 when we go, 60-second warning, and he goes, What? We have a show?
It's 3:59! It's amazing.
It is amazing, and it's going to continue that way, and that's all right, So All right. Plenty to get it. I've had a heck of a day. I've been running around, flying around all over the place.
Yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I monitor you, and sometimes I don't. I don't know what you've been doing today. What have you been doing? How was it?
Everything. First of all, it's been kind of a melancholy day around here. Alanya.
Yeah, I'd say my brother walked in and said, "What's going on around here?"
Yeah.
I said, "Well, we're celebrating a couple funerals."
Yeah, Alanya, our dear friend Alanya from the trail, her last day was today. Moving on to a new gig, and we're excited for her, and yet angry, very disappointed. And then, the whole community's got to get next. It's Wednesday, right? Is Craig Johnson's last day on the trail, last day ever. He is retiring after 46 years in radio, an absolute legend. And so his last day is Wednesday. So we're losing two good ones out of the office here, which is it's a bummer. It's a bummer. These are people we like and who are great at what they do. And Craig is certainly going to be missed. You only got 3 days left with Craig, people. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 6 to 10 a.m., 103.3. Tune in. Listen. Soak it up. Because when it's gone, it's done. I feel like these are the last Letterman shows. You know what I mean? So they're like, get in. The getting's good. Because when it's done, it's it. So, we've had that whole thing going on. I'm supposed to be leaving town tonight. Going to a wedding tomorrow and trying to get a jump on it a little bit. And just, it's never easy to get loaded up and get everything sorted out, even for a relatively small trip with 3 kids, But you know what the real issue is, Coulter?
What's that, Gus?
It's 4:06. I'm supposed to leave at 6:06. I'm working until that very minute. No idea what to do with the rabbit.
Oh, that's okay. The sooner that thing dies, the better.
I mean, you and I are on the same page there, but for the first time I looked at my wife today and I said, this is why I've been against this whole time. And, I'm sure things will work out. Maybe you just put it in the yard and there's all the grass in the world and just have at it,
Things will work themselves out.
Let's talk a little football.
Let's
make
do
me
it.
happier. Chris Murray.
This doesn't make me happy at all.
Well, talking sports makes me happy. This is a bummer, I guess. This is what it is. Chris Murray, no longer on the roster, and to my knowledge, is right. He's no longer even enrolled at Montana State. He obviously was the quarterback for the Montana State Bobcats for a couple of seasons. Had a really interesting roller coastery career. Was an absolute phenom in a lot of ways, and also sort of like, well, what are you doing at times in other ways? And in some, especially from the quarterback standpoint, as was been well documented at Montana State, the things that traditionally quarterbacks do well, he did not, and the things that traditionally quarterbacks aren't any good at, he's elite at, and so was a very sort of atypical guy back there. An absolutely unparalleled athlete. What he was able to bring to that position and for that team. Ends up becoming academically uneligible, hence the Troy Anderson saga last season. And we thought, well, that's it. That's all we'll hear from Chris Murray. Lo and behold, he comes back in the spring here, and is working his way to be back with the team. Is back on the roster. Is doing spring football and going to school. Gets done with this semester, not going to be eligible again academically. And is no longer on the team once again. And that looks to be it for Chris Murray.
Yeah, he's left the program, is how Montana State confirmed and worded it today. I have a lot of thoughts about this. But mostly I feel bad for Chris Murray because I'm sure Chris Murray is, he is the absolute talking point of the state of Montana today. There's no doubt about it. This has been a story that's been brewing for a while. Jeff Choate made this announcement to some of his quarterback club members and boosters a few weeks ago, and I've been kind of working on it for a while. But with things like this, when you're talking about eligibility and like are you enrolled in school, sources say you can't really do that in terms of the reporting part of it because it's not official until it's official.
It's not a sourceable thing.
Like the guy has to be removed from the roster and not enrolled in school before it is a thing, and it became a thing this morning, so that's when everybody reported on it, even though this has been kind of brewing for a little while. But regardless, I think Chris Murray is one of the most majestic and spectacular pure athletes I've ever seen. I think the fact that Chris Murray was so young and his rise, so meteoric while also polarizing, caused for Chris Murray to never really know how good he was either. And I think that was part of both the appeal of Chris Murray and the frustrations that surrounded Chris Murray. And Chris, it's like my brother said, we were just recording our final edition of the Bobcats by the Numbers. Check that out, SkylineSportsMT.com. Have that up a little later on this evening.
Yeah, you've been working hard on this thing.
But it's like Brooks said, I never remember Chris Murray getting hit hard a single time. And I also never remember Chris Murray looking like he was trying ever. Yet he was still running by everybody all the time. And he had some brief flashes where you were like, whoa, man, is this guy the best player in the conference? And then he had other flashes where you're like, this kid can't process anything. He's in over his head. But no matter what, when he had the ball in his hands and he was the one running, truly spectacular. And the reason that this sort of makes me sad is that the dominoes that have fallen in Montana State to get them into the quarterback situation that they continue to be in, despite the fact that they're in the fourth year of the program under Jeff Choate, so much of them have nothing to do with Chris Murray, but they directly affected Chris Murray. So Chris Murray was recruited by Eastern Washington and Montana State coming out of high school. Rob Ash was the one that recruited Chris Murray initially. Mm-hmm. They were going to bring Chris Murray into a program that had Dakota Prukop returning as a senior starter, that had Jordan Hoy as the heir apparent, that had, Ben Folsom still playing quarterback, that had a bunch of quarterbacks on the roster. And then when Jeff Choate took over, he said, okay, this kid's talented. He's probably going to be a project, but let's get him in the program and hopefully we can redshirt him and develop him. And Chris Murray graduated high school when he was 17 years old, so he's really young. And he comes to Montana State, and all of a sudden Prukop graduate transfers to Oregon. And all of a sudden Jordan Hoy transfers to a junior college. And all of a sudden Ben Folsom quits the team. And all of a sudden you have no quarterbacks on your roster. And then you go out and you get a 4-star hired gun in Tyler Brugman. And by midseason of the following year, Tyler Brugman does not live up to expectations. And you make the rash decision to pull him. And I'm not necessarily saying it was the wrong decision, but it was definitely a rash decision.
Yeah.
And you throw Chris Murray in. And Chris Murray made his first start at Weber State a week before his 18th birthday. That in itself is crazy.
It's amazing.
Especially when you consider this guy comes from a pretty hard luck background, a pretty disenfranchised background. A part of an inner city in Southern California that is by no means known for its academic prowess, and then you have him at a school that is known for their academic prowess in Montana State, and you have him trying to handle the pressure of being a Division I starting quarterback. And oh, by the way, you're playing against Weber State, the best defense in the conference that year. And Montana State goes out and they fumbled 2 of the first opening kickoffs. They're down 21-0 before they even touch the ball. I mean, it could not have started worse for Chris Murray broadly or specifically.
Right.
He still went out and rushed for 132 yards in that game, and he did complete some passes. They ended up losing, I think, 42-21, even though they were down 42-0 before they even had a chance to get it rolling. But it was an ominous start. But then he turned the corner and he led them to 2 wins down the stretch, including his iconic win at Washington Grizzly Stadium, the front flip into the end zone, the quarterback draw where he juked Connor Strom out of his shoes. Yep. I mean, moments that we will truly never forget. Some of the most memorable moments I have witnessed in Cat Careers happened with Chris Murray with the ball in his hands, both the game in Missoula and the game in Bozeman. And, but all that said, then all of a sudden he's the man. He's got to develop. But I just think that if Chris Murray would have been able to give it a chance to redshirt or give it a chance to grow up, like when you burst onto the scene like that, and then all of a sudden you're the Big Sky Freshman of the Year, and then all of a sudden you win in Missoula, and all the other stuff is in the back burner of the 4-7 season and your early struggles and all that stuff, that's irrelevant. Now you got to deal with an entire offseason worth of, I'm the man, I'm the Grizz killer, I'm the guy that's silencing Washington Grizzly Stadium. When you're 17 years old, I mean, he had turned 18 by that point, but barely. And I don't want to make excuses for the kid because he definitely got a lot of opportunities. He got a second and third chance to get his academics right. But you just have to wonder if the situation would have been different across the board, both academically and athletically, if he would have actually had a chance to acclimate to college life, to get his feet underneath him, to get his academics straightened out. I mean, there's many of us that struggled our first semester or two in college, let alone lead your team to one of the biggest upsets and one of the greatest rivalries in college football. I mean, it's just, there's a lot of factors that go into it. And at the end of the day, I always, from a personal heart of hearts level, rooted for Chris Murray, because I think that Chris Murray had every disadvantage in the book, both from his background to where he comes from to the situation he was put in at Montana State. It was all stacked against him. And I know he got a lot of chances, but I always hoped that he would be able to come out on the other side. And the fact that he didn't, it just makes me sad.
Stu Tell Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. It's interesting, Colton, because when we talk about kids that have academic issues and who become academically ineligible, especially athletes, so I mean, that's what we talk about around here, the presumption is, well, it's like effort. They didn't care about school. They came to play and didn't care about school. And I think that's often true. And I mean, I think there's even more of that narrative when you talk about the one and done situation at the, in college, where this is such a vast minority of kids. You're talking about 10 a dozen guys at Division I basketball every year that are going and do not even have to go to class to be eligible because grades don't come out until after they're done. So, but in any case, when guys become academically ineligible, it's like, he just like wasn't interested in school. When a kid like Chris Murray becomes academically ineligible, leaves, enrolls in classes online, takes school elsewhere to get credits, and then returns, it goes a long way to saying to me that this was not, at least in some ways, it was not a matter of effort. Like, he worked, seems like, pretty hard academically, had to, just to get back into MSU to begin with, and then back onto the football team. And the fact that it didn't work out a second time, like you said, it seems like there's maybe a number of factors at work here, and it is too bad, and it is disappointing, and we certainly, both from a football side and just a life side, wish Chris the absolute best in wherever he goes and lands next, and that's what it is. But that's also, I guess, part of it when you talk about playing Division I NCAA bylines, guidelines, umbrella football. Here's what I want to ask you. Do you want to add to that?
Well, I just think that we're really lucky living in the great American West. We're really lucky living in the Rocky
Tucker
Mountain
Sargent,
West.
line one.
And we're also really lucky living in a university town where discourse is a very prevalent thing, and there's a lot of educated people around. I guess one thing that people need to understand is that there is more than a few high schools, especially in inner cities in America, where you're just shuffling on through. And so your academic baseline, the foundation that's laid, to graduate from high school should have you prepared to go to a public institution, but that's just not the case. And I cannot speak specifically if that was the case with Chris Murray, but knowing what Inglewood, California is like, knowing what Lawndale High School is like, I mean, there's all the glorification and romanticism and also sort of scary stories about places like Compton. Well, Lawndale is next to Compton. I mean, Dominguez High School, which is the most notorious high school in Compton, is rivals with Lawndale. That's where Chris Murray's from. So I guess what I'm getting at is I can't say this for certain, but I would not be surprised if Chris Murray just did not have the academic foundation coming into college that is necessary to succeed academically at a STEM school like Montana State.
Let's go quickly to the phones. We welcome in our dear friend, Tucker Sargent. Hello, Tucker. What do you got, bud?
I think that the kids are coming wildly underprepared for college just in general, and it's not unique to, inner city schools of California, but I think you see it right here in Montana where we get kids all the time where they're just shuffled through, passed on through, and then put into a school, and they're completely unprepared. And I think that they shouldn't be eligible for sports if they can't do it, because the University of Montana, Montana State, if you attend and you participate, you will pass. But I think a lot of people and kids get used to this just kind of shuffling on, pass them through thing where they don't really grasp that you got to participate. And, as much of a bummer as it is that, look, these are academic institutions. If you,
totally.
We're not just these minor league sports to try and get kids to the next step. It's, the NCAA is National Collegiate Athletic Association. And I think that we all too often get caught up with, oh, well, this is his opportunity. We'll find another opportunity because, it's not that universities owe it to these students. And I'm not just speaking to kids come from inner cities. I'm talking about kids from Montana where they come in wildly unprepared to do this. I see it with the lacrosse team, too. We see kids come in and they don't have this. It's not that they're not smart enough. It's they don't have the skills or understand that it's a two-way street, and you've got to participate in order to be eligible.
Tucker, for those of you who don't know, is the head coach of the lacrosse team of the University of Montana and also has the academic side of what his kids and the players on that team are dealing with and trying to do as well. Yeah. Just letting people know, Tuck. I just want them to know who you are. You're not coming out of the clear blue sky with this.
No, but so I see it a lot, and and I can only speak to, what we see the most of at Montana is kids from Montana, but I think, our public schools fail these kids by just passing them through because when are you going to learn that, there's got to be some accountability for what you do. And I would say in large part, everyone is smart enough. Everyone that has the ability to do it, but they don't understand what it takes to, goes back to your point, like a lot of guys come and there's a lot of other cool things to do when you're on a team, whether it's football or basketball or hockey or whatever the sport is, and that you just kind of glide on through and, that works for one semester, maybe two, but then it catches up with you and then it's kind of like, oh, now you can't do it. What are you doing? It's too late. And I think that we've got to do a much better job instilling in these students before they get here. And certainly once they get here, the first year, I think that all these universities need to do a much better job promoting life skills, man, because you see kids come in, and maybe it's not that the school's the hard part, but then they're overwhelmed because they don't know how to do laundry. They don't know how to pay their power bill. They don't know how to shop. Like, they don't know how to write a check, man. Like, you get a bill for something, and kids just, are floored. I mean, I rent houses to college kids, and they don't even know how to pay rent. Like, you have to explain that to them. It's alarming how ill-prepared people are just to live on their own.
And I guess that's my point about talking about maybe the background Chris Murray came from, because if his academics were in proper order, if it was clear that he wasn't up to par to come to a Division I university, let alone a high-research Carnegie institution like Montana State, then he would have probably been filtered into the junior college route. Or maybe he does get recruited by Montana State and he gets a chance to gray shirt and take some classes before he gets thrown to the wolves. And then all of a sudden, maybe his academic failings aren't on full display for all of us to exploit. I just think that the kid obviously blew a couple of his own second and third chances, but also it seems as if, to me at least, the system has some flaws.
I think, and I'm not picking on Chris Murray here. I'm just speaking more about the system as a whole from what I've seen from a number of people.
Yeah.
And I think that, you're going to continue to see this, and it is unfortunate because, you know what, maybe Montana State was a great ticket for Chris Murray that maybe he didn't stand a chance in the beginning. Again, you know his story far better than I do, but I think just the system in general is just one of those things where it's like, man, at least if you're going to bring a guy in, and athletes get a lot more support than the average student, but there's a lot of students that just go to college in general that aren't even in athletics that don't get any support and come in and they're out within a semester or a year. And it's just because they're not equipped and there's no one doing anything.
Tucker, appreciate the call, man. Good perspective on it as always. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, got me fired up.
Tucker Sargent, boys and girls. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We got to get out. We got a bunch of interviews coming up here for you. Missoula, Garden City 3-on-3 tournament coming up, and the Mattress Firm Student of the Year, Faith Edmister from Great Falls in studio with us. All that coming up right after this.
Right now at Carl Tyler Chevrolet, take advantage of employee pricing and up to $7,500 in rebates on all 2018 Silverados. Get the most out of your summer with a reliable truck that'll take you anywhere during Carl Tyler Chevrolet's June Silverado sell down. Save $11,719 on select 2018 Silverado 1500s. View our full inventory at gmofmontana.com or 3663 North Reserve Street. Carl Tyler Chevrolet. Find new roads.
Montana's first and only indoor urban axe throwing facility is open and ready for you to get your axe down here. Lumberjacks Throwing Company, located kitty corner to Draftworks Brewing, is the perfect spot for dates, team building, bachelor parties, or just to blow off some steam after work. Their axe coaches are here to teach you the safety and technique of axe throwing and to get you sticking the axe in no time. Check them out on Facebook or at lumberjacksthrowingcompany.com to book your experience today. Get your axe down here.
In Western Montana, we know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com. Springtime is the time to buy a new Polaris off-road vehicle. During the spring sales event, rebates go as high as $1,500 and financing is as low as 3.99%. Live your life wide open in a high-performance RZR. Tackle anything from mountains to mud holes on a legendary Sportsman ATV. Get more done with a hard-working Ranger, or take on any task or trail in a versatile Polaris General. Whatever you're looking for, now is the time to take your pick from the off-road's best-selling lineup. See Polaris.com or your Polaris dealer for rebates up to $1,500 and financing as low as 3.99% APR for 36 months during the Polaris Spring Sales event at Kurtz Polaris. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula and Highway 83 in Sealy. Recreate the right way with Kurtz Polaris, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Offer valid in U.S. through 5/31/19 on new 2015 through 2019 vehicles. Subject to credit approval. Offers vary by model. See dealer for details. Always wear a helmet. Never drink and ride.
It happens. You're positive you put your bank card back in your wallet, but the next time you need it, it's missing. Avoid the panic and take control with the MyCard app and debit card from Farmers State Bank. Our app lets you control your debit card and securely turn it off right from your phone. Safe, secure, instant. MyCard is available only at Farmers State Bank. Ask about it at any of our 9 locations or learn more at farmersebank.com. Farmers State Bank, member FDIC.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good afternoon, Ryan Tutel, Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Chris Murray's career as a Bobcat is finished. The electric yet sporadic Montana State quarterback missed the 2018 season due to academic ineligibility. During the 2018-19 academic year, Murray was not able to restore his eligibility. He officially left the team this week, and an MSU official confirmed Murray's name was removed from the Montana State roster Friday, as was running back Tyrell Burgess and cornerback Jalen Cole.
Murray was one of just 3 quarterbacks in Big Sky Conference history to rush for more than 1,000 yards in a single season. He rushed for more than 100 yards 5 times as a sophomore in 2017 alone, including posting a second straight 100-yard game against the rival Grizzlies. Murray's career included lofty highs and puzzling lows, the peak coming with back-to-back wins over rival Montana.
4 Grizz and 3 Bobcats earned their way onto the Hero Sports preseason All-American teams. UM senior linebacker Dante Olson and junior special teams ace Jason Lewis landed on the first team. MSU do-everything Troy Anderson made the first team as an all-purpose player. Grizz sophomore Robbie Hauk landed on the second team, while Montana State senior offensive tackle Mitch Brott landed on the first team offense. Junior wide receiver Sammy Akem joined Montana State sophomore running back Isaiah Ifonse on the third team.
Finally, at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, Montana senior Hannah Fowler missed All-American honors by just a single foot. Instead, she finished 17th in the women's hammer throw with a toss of 203 feet 6 inches.
We were young, so
it's harder to do without headphones. I forgot. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. SWX Montana Television. Hi, how are you? Good to be with you. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris, 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. And online at kurtzpolaris.com. You can find us on Twitter at Gus Tutel. That's me. Follow along. Check out all my great retweets. Just trafficking in other people's glory. And also find us on at 102.9 ESPN and at Skyline Sports MT for your up-to-the-moment Big Sky Conference sports news. Very happy to be joined in studio now by our Mattress Firm Student of the Year from Great Falls High, and now from the University of Montana. How about that? Faith Edmister, as well as Conrad Ayers, representative from Mattress Firm. Thank you both for being here. Great to be with you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah. Now, Faith, we had you on earlier on this year when you won the Student of the Week award. And as a Student of the Week winner, you become eligible to become the Student of the Year. And here, lo and behold, you get it. You're from Great Falls High School, and you do a bunch of different dance up there, and phenomenal giving back to the community and so forth. And you've come down to Missoula, first and foremost, to be on this show in studio, and then secondarily to register for classes. How about that at the University of Montana? But a great day for you. How fun was this to come down and do this today at the university?
It was a great, fun-filled day for sure, because I started out at 9:30 and just getting to know the campus and going around, seeing my dorm, having lunch, talking to President Seth Bodnar and stuff, and it was awesome just getting to know the campus already. And then now the excitement just continues as I get to talk to you guys about that $3,000 that I just won. So
President
excited.
Bodnar, pretty tough to get along with, huh?
Oh, is he?
Kind of a tough guy, kind of a mean personality, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So nice.
We like Seth around here for sure. Tell us about this. So this is cool because what you do is you take all of the weekly winners of the Student of the Week, and then they were available to vote, and you all voted over the course of May, and you won with the most votes. But what was it like when you found out, oh my goodness, I'm getting $3,000 from Mattress Firm to apply towards tuition, towards going to school?
Yeah, it was awesome. It was just so rewarding when I finally found out. I'd been waiting and to see who'd won, and we had been voting every single day. My mom and dad have been posting it on Facebook, trying to get all of our friends and family to vote.
Grassroots.
Yeah, and so it was awesome just finally finding out. And then KFBB surprised me in town, and my whole family and my friends knew. And then I was sitting there eating my garden salad, and then out of nowhere they bring this huge check, and I don't know how I was so oblivious to it to know that was going on behind my back, but it was so fun to finally know.
Were you surprised? When you found out you won?
Oh my gosh, it was ridiculous.
Well, tell us about now your future pursuits. What sort of things did you learn about campus today, and what are you going to study? What are you going to major in?
Well, I'm undeclared so far. I like math a lot, and so I'm either going to go into education or finance like my father, and so that'll be really interesting. But I just made the University of Montana dance team, and so that's one thing that I'm really excited about is I get to continue and pursue my passion in dance.
No, congrats. They had a great dance team at the University of Montana,
yeah,
so
awesome.
That's very cool. And then Conrad, I mean, Mattress Firm has been doing this for several years now, and to kind of be here on the back end of this thing when you have a student and a great kid like Faith that you get to present a check to, what's that like for you?
It's amazing. So I used to live in Great Falls, and I've worked at Mattress Firm for about 18 years, and it's just really nice to be able to find someone like you who has done all you've done and accomplished, and we're just really thankful for what you've done, and we look forward to seeing what you do in the future.
Thank you very much.
Now, is it possible to be a finance teaching dancer? Can you do all of these things?
I feel like I could make it happen.
Absolutely. Now, I know that you did a bunch of work in the community while you were in Great Falls. Now you're in Missoula, and obviously you got to get acclimated to what college life is like and everything like that. But do you have other things in Missoula as you go that you're going to take from that time in Great Falls that you want to apply while you're here?
Well, today we had, at the registration event, we had seen a bunch of student service activities, and so I'm definitely going to try to get involved as much as I can. I just... as soon as I figure out my schedule, that's going to be my next priority is figuring out where I can volunteer and help out in Missoula.
Take us through the tryout process, because that's pretty intense, right?
Yeah.
Very competitive University of Montana dance team. So what do you have to do? What is it? What all does it entail?
So on Friday of tryouts, we learned a bunch of the content for the tryout, and so the coach this last year was Megan Carciopolo, and she was a Dallas Cowboy cheerleader, and so she just had it all laid out for how she wanted it to be, and she was intense, but so awesome. She's good at everything she does, and so the tryout was so intense, and then it was an open tryout this year, so my family could sit in and watch and cheer as it went on, and so this year was fun because I could go across the floor and do my thing, and all these combinations of tricks and stuff, and my parents and my friends were sitting there cheering me on, and so it was really fun this year. I enjoyed it a lot.
Well, it is very competitive.
Yeah.
You actually might be surprised. The only team I've ever been cut from, the UM dance team. I tried out,
I know.
And they said, we appreciate you, but you have to be more flexible than a bar of iron, so you can't do this. I'm sorry. Have a nice day. When you've been to Missoula before, I'm sure, and all of that, but when you come out of school and okay, I'm going to the University of Montana, and you do the tour, do you see it in a different light? Because I've had that happen where I've been here, 100 times or whatever it is, but like now that I'm placing myself here, it kind of changes things a little bit, right?
Yeah, for sure. And like, I've gone to Grizzly games over and over again, and I sit in that stadium, and it's awesome. And then today when I was there, I was like, I'm going to be on that turf. I'm going to be down there, and everybody's going to be watching like the game, and I'll be down there so close to it all. And
right.
So, yeah, I'm excited.
Do you get worried? Because I worry about these poor girls down here and the reporters and even the coaches. All of a sudden, play comes out of bounds, and you got your back to it and the whole thing.
Seriously, yeah, I'm a little nervous for that, but since I've been a cheerleader at Great Falls High, I've kind of been used to that, just always being on guard because you never know what can happen.
You never do know what can happen. Well,
seriously.
Congratulations to you. This is a really cool thing. Again, $3,000 to Faith Edmister, the Mattress Firm Student of the Year from Great Falls High School. She is a phenomenal dancer, and if you're in and around the Missoula area, University of Montana, you'll be able to enjoy her skills over the next 4 or 5 years. See how it goes. That's great.
Seriously.
And Conrad, we appreciate you being here and all the things that Mattress Firm is doing in and around the state of Montana.
Absolutely, we're glad to do it. We love it here.
Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break, come back. We'll continue with this Dog and Pony Show. Maybe we'll talk about some 3-on-3 basketball next.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
At the Montana Club, our goal is to create a menu of mouth-watering food with variety to satisfy any craving. From the garden-fresh ingredients in our salads to our succulent, perfectly grilled Montana Club Angus steaks, we take pride in every detail that goes into preparing your food. Top off your meal with a premium cocktail, wine, or microbrew. Come as you are and satisfy your craving with our home-style breakfast, lunch, and dinner at the Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
No matter how far you may go, there's always one just down the road. Town Pump, pump it up, pump it up.
Craving some caffeine? Need a snack? Then stop by your local Town Pump now. We've got buy one, get one free on our 11-ounce high brew coffee and Doritos XXL, 2 for only $6. Stock up today. Town Pump Food Stores, proud to be part of our community.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
When you need a bank to help ramp up your savings strategy, look to your local bank, Opportunity Bank of Montana. Build confidence in your financial future when you create a rainy day cushion or take care of the nest egg you already have. Opportunity Bank offers options from basic savings to money market accounts and certificates with competitive rates. There's nothing like the feeling of progress, so let's get started today. Come see us at Opportunity Bank of Montana. OpportunityBank.com. Member FDIC.
Jayco and Rangich Brothers are teaming up once again. We take pride in being Western Montana's #1 Jayco dealer and strive to continually offer you the best quality, pricing, and reliability. To celebrate the arrival of summer, we are offering June hot buys. From RVs to parts and service, we got you covered. Save big on Jayco J-Flight SLX, 264 bunkhouse travel trailer, Sleep 7 starting at only $14,995 with payments as low as $149 per month OAC. Don't miss our June hot buys going on now. Only where a handshake means something. Rangich Brothers RV Center.
Tutel and Nuanez. Listen to the podcast on the TuneIn Radio app or on iTunes, 1029ESPN.com.
basketball in the city in the summertime? Not much. Not much. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Outstanding to be with you on a Friday afternoon. Hope you are having a fantastic day. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83, and Sealy online at kurtzpolaris.com. Boys and girls, the Garden City 3-on-3. Not this weekend, but the next weekend. This is like the 1,000th annual. I think that the Roman Empire was like just getting off the ground. The first Missoula Garden City 3-on-3. This has been going a long time, and we are happy to be joined by a couple of guys in studio who make it happen. Jayton and Dre Simpson coming into here. Jayton, you've been doing this a long time, man, in this town with the 3-on-3 tournament and the City Life Center and all that. How you doing? Good to see you.
Yeah, man, it's good to be here. Good to see you. It's been great, man. Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to Bob outside. He's like, man, that thing just keeps growing year after year. I'm like, yeah, I like to say that's me, but, you know, I know Josh and team would have done the same thing.
Josh, very secondary. It's about you and then obviously the use of radio, the effective use of Tutel and Nuanez to get this thing going. Let's talk about the specifics of this thing. And Dre, you're in here too, and yes. You are you have taken on the thankless job, maybe the most hated job in the world. You're going to ref at this thing. You're going to be a referee. Yes, have you reffed the 3-on-3 tournament before?
Yes, I have.
And how does that go? Is it weird to stand out there and try and get the 60-year-old guys off of each other?
I'm going to let them do their thing. I'm going to let them have fun. They still got to get it out of them.
Yeah.
They still got to get it out of them. Have fun.
Jayton, tell them the specifics of this. Monday is the deadline for registration. So you got this weekend, basically, if you want to play. How many more slots do you have available right now?
So, like 40 teams. So that means there's some room out there. But the bracketologist, Bob, would strangle my neck, which means I'm not be able to host a tournament. So don't get me in trouble, y'all. Register your teams. Monday's the deadline. Let's make it happen.
How do people sign up? What does it cost? Tell them all the details.
Okay, cool. Online, you can do this whole bit.ly link. Y'all know the prefix for that. But capital M Missoula 3-on-3, or visit yscmt.com. Visit the mall for a paper registration. But reality, we all do it online. Just search me, Jayton Simpson. Search City Life Community Center. Search Southgate Mall 3-on-3 event. Sign up.
Love it. Dre, what's your favorite part about 3-on-3s?
What's my favorite part? Just to be able to sit there and watch the crowd just get wild. Everybody get crazy. Just have fun. The enjoyment of it all.
Have you been up to one of these before?
No, actually, I haven't. This is my first time.
Oh,
it's my
nice.
first time in Missoula. So.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to town.
Thank you. I love it.
Jayton, you mentioned the City Life Center. Tell people just about what the City Life Center does, what it represents, and why it's important for the Missoula community.
Yeah, and I'll try not to get all mushy because it's very, very important to me. But the City Life Community Center, local nonprofit facility that's open to the public. It is not affiliated with any other organization. It's a standalone facility. Great place for our youth. Full-size basketball court inside. Downstairs is an indoor paintball arena. There's like 14 or 15 other nonprofits that are housed out of the City Life Community Center. And then, of course, Josh Jones, the executive director at the community center, runs the YFC ministries out of one of the spaces there. And that's where I did my mentor program. I based it out of that place. So, yeah, there's a mushy part.
Now,
I'll keep it together.
There's an even mushier part to all this, Jayton, because this is your last one for the foreseeable future because you are moving. It's not that far, just the earth to Barcelona, Spain.
Yeah, man.
And you're getting on a plane and going to be up and out of here very, very shortly. So you've been a big part of this community for a long time, obviously going to the university, playing ball there, and also just all the things that you've done contributing to this town through the youth and all the things that you've been involved with. You have this opportunity to go. What is some of the things that you were like, hey, you know what? I got this coming up. I got to do this. I got to go to Barcelona.
So the question was, what do I do to get to that point?
Well, what came up where you're like, you know what, I think it's time for it's time to go. Like, I'm going to go do this.
Nah, this was all part of the main job. So I work at ATG, a Cognizant company. You know, I've been a tech nerd for a couple years now, and we were just acquired by Cognizant, which has global delivery centers around the world.
Yes.
And it just so happens they have a delivery center in Barcelona. Now, my son is with his mom in the Air Force. So they're out there in Germany. Mm-hmm. And so I was just trying to, how do I get to be with my boy more and get paid and have my wife and daughter live on the beach?
Have you been to Barcelona yet? Have you been over there?
Yes, I have.
I mean, you can do worse than Barcelona, Spain. It is okay out there on the Mediterranean, man.
Hey, man, what the plan is to end the conference call and jump in the sea. I'm serious. I'm like, okay, yep, thank y'all, and I'm jumping in the sea.
See you later. Dre, what do you think about this? Are you going to try and get over there to Europe and go visit now that you got a place to stay?
I don't try. I do it. I was already going.
Okay.
This is just a pit stop right here. A great pit stop at that.
This is just pause. We got a huge international airport. Get there at least 40 minutes before your plane leaves at MSO because, you never know. There might be 4 other people trying to get on the same airplane when you fly out of Missoula. So I just want to give you a heads up on that. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Dre and Jayton Simpson in studio with us. They are in town briefly. Also in studio, again, Garden City 3-on-3, not this weekend, but the following weekend. You got to sign up, though, by Monday to play in it. Bunch of teams. This thing has been growing, every year for the past 5, 6, 7 years. And you said there's 40 teams available. How many teams are in this thing already? A lot.
Yeah, about 100.
Yeah.
So we're just shy of 100 right now. So we've been running about 120, 130 year over year, or last year. And so we're hoping to get at least 10, 15, 20 more teams.
Right. Yeah. So you get that. And then this is all, it's a fun thing to play for, but it's also a great benefit, too, to the City Life Center, which you talked about.
Well, all the funds go to the City Life Community Center, that same facility that'll probably make me cry if I talk some more about it. So we'll move on, right? It's a great tournament. Come play ball. If you can't play ball, we're still looking for some refs so you can help ref. And then if you just want to actually win some cash money on the side, you can do the 3-point contest, free throw contest, the dunk contest, and of course, give a shout out to all of our sponsors and especially the Southgate Mall.
Dre, you're going to help the folks that come out to ref that haven't ref before and give them okay, here's what you got to do. Here's the right temperament to have.
So all this is fundamentals.
So how many fouls are you going to call in a game? Over, under?
Honestly, probably not that many.
Yeah?
Because it's a 3-on-3 basketball tournament. I'm pretty sure every man can come out there and enjoy themselves and know how to conduct themselves appropriately.
Right. It's just a good hard screen for crying out loud. That's all I'm saying.
Now, if you get a little rough and rugged, when people tripping.
Dre, that's Dre's side, right? Dre sets those kind of screens. Like, I would call a foul on Dre every time. Every time.
I'm an impenetrable wall. What can I say?
Dre, you said it's your first time in Missoula. What do you think so far?
Actually, I love it. I am in love with Missoula, Montana. He's been clowning me. Jay-Tom been clowning me about pronouncing Missoula right. Missoula. Is that right?
You got it. You're nailing it.
Okay, cool.
He just got there, y'all. Don't give him that. He just got there. I've been giving him a hard time. He finally got it right.
But, I love it out here. I linked up with a bunch of great guys. We started our music, and we did our music, pushed our music a lot, and I'm starting my own record label at the same time, so it's perfect. I'm loving everything out here.
Jason, you've been here for a long time, but what's kept you here? What do you like about Missoula that's kept you here for so long?
Well, compared to LA, compared to that fast life, it's slower. I'm able to think more.
Yeah.
And I'm a big thinker. He was just giving me a hard time driving over here that we be thinking about stuff you be thinking about. Why you got to have just this random thought and then want to talk about it? Why you want to discuss? Missoula allowed me to do that. It allowed me to grow into the man I am today. And it's family-wise, obviously. Now my kids born here. My mom's been here. My sister, brother went through school here. This Missoula.
It's home.
I went through school here, graduated a semester early. Missoula's loved me when I was on the radio. Sold phones to Missoula. I was your Verizon man. You know what I mean? Come on now. Missoula's been great. So that's the reason why I've done everything that I could now, and I'm glad to be able to expand even farther.
Yeah. Well, Missoula and us are happy for you and will miss you at the same time, and are excited, though, for your opportunity over there, and know that it's going to work out well for you. Before that, though, the 3-on-3 tournament, people. Go sign up. Monday is the deadline. You can sign up online. Missoula3on3.com, or just Google Jayton Simpson. It's pretty simple. And again, I mean, we know about this by now at the Southgate Mall. They've been doing this out there for well over 20 years, and it's a great community event, a great weekend in the city, and it's going to be beautiful out there this next weekend. So go play some ball. And listen, if you want to get a little physical with it, just get Dre as your referee. Everything's going to be fun, and you're going to be able to play whatever style you want to.
It's not going to rain this year, and if it does, it's just going to be that little bit of sprinkle that cools you off, that keeps you playing hard. Because last year we played through.
Fouls.
That's right.
It is going to be great. Father's Day weekend.
Now we'll get rid of the rain here and have a nice one next weekend. Guys, thanks so much for being here as always. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Quick break. Hour 1 in the books. Hour 2 straight ahead. Game 4 tonight, NBA Finals. We'll get into that and chick who doesn't know about sports, and we will send somebody to Three Forks. Stay and play for the weekend.
And we got some baseball cards for you, too.
Let's go. How come you didn't tell me you've been holding out on me? Here we go. Next.
Alpine Touch makes the perfect gift this summer or any time of year. If you are traveling, bring a gift that is distinctly Montana and give your loved ones some of the best spices anywhere around. From the Alpine Touch Pick 4 Spice Pack to the All-Purpose Twin Pack to the mouth-watering sunflower shoots to Alpine Touch gift cards. Alpine Touch makes the perfect Montana present. Available at retail locations around the state or online for a limited time. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
It's a crisp fall morning. Time for your daily pumpkin soy latte. As you wait for your coffee, you get a buzz. No, it's not your boss wanting extra whipped cream, but your ADT video doorbell. It's a package. Your new latte machine. No more $5 PSLs. Barista service. Brought to you by ADT. Designing and installing a smart home just for you. Backed by best-in-class 24/7 protection. Learn more at ADT.com. ADT. Real protection. License information available at ADT.com.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes, too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River. Hey everybody, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of the Advocates Injury Law Firm. Josh, there's a lot of lawyers in this area. What makes you different?
At the Advocates, we primarily focus on injury cases. That gives us the experience and the knowledge to correctly evaluate your case and work with insurance companies and other attorneys so you get exactly what you deserve to make you whole again. We take really good care of our clients, and we're going to fight for every single dollar you deserve.
Call 640-4444 or online at montanaadvocates.com. There are a lot of lawyers. You deserve an advocate.
ESPN Radio for Western Montana. KKVU HD3 Stevensville and 102.9 FM on K275BS Missoula. ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening. Ryan Tutel, Colter Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Chris Murray's career as a Bobcat is finished. The electric yet sporadic Montana State quarterback missed the 2018 season due to academic ineligibility. During the 2018-19 academic year, Murray was not able to restore that eligibility. He officially left the team this week. An MSU official confirmed Murray's name was removed from the Montana State roster Friday, as well as running back Tyrell Burgess and cornerback Jalen Cole.
Murray was one of just 3 quarterbacks in the history of the Big Sky Conference to rush for more than 1,000 yards in a single season when he did it as a sophomore. That same year, in 2017, he rushed for 100 yards or more 5 different times, including posting a second straight 100-yard game against the Grizzlies. Murray's career included lofty highs and puzzling lows, the peak coming with back-to-back wins over rival Montana.
4 Grizz and 3 Bobcats earned their way onto the Hero Sports preseason All-American teams. UM senior linebacker Dante Olson and junior special teams ace Jace Lewis landed on this first team. MSU Do Everything junior Troy Anderson made the first team as an all-purpose player. Montana State senior Mitch Brott also landed on the first team offense. Grizz sophomore Robbie Hauk was on the second team defense, while junior wide receiver Sammy Akem joined MSU sophomore running back Isaiah Ifonse on the third team.
And finally, at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships, Montana senior Hannah Fowler finished 17th in the women's hammer throw.
Do I look too cool? Do I look too cool? On my bicycle, yeah. I'm sorry, I rule. I'm sorry, I rule.
Game 4 of the NBA Finals coming up, 7 o'clock. We'll have it for you right here on ESPN Radio. Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the first hour, check it out on the podcast. The podcast available on the TuneIn Radio app and on iTunes and on Spotify or on the station website, and it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. Listen, rate, review. Check it out. We appreciate that on the podcast. 329-1899, the phone number. All guests join us via the Rangish Brothers phone number. Tommy, who are we listening to right here? This is good.
Filou, an Austrian artist.
I got a little bit of that. Not necessarily Austrian, but European in some sense. Austrian is good. By the way, now I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I understand or know everybody's beliefs or, what's right and wrong and so forth, and materialism versus mysticism and spirituality and, the basic fundamentals of the universe and so on. But you people have witnessed a miracle. Coulter and I interviewed 4 people in 2 different sessions in the first hour and got out early. Early.
Yeah, it's typical. Still not sticking to the clock.
Wait a minute. You're going to bust my chops on this, Tommy, usually we're 100 hours late. Now we got time to breathe. This is great.
Early is not sticking to the clock because now we have a content issue because you're not sticking to the clock that I made for you that you are supposed to follow.
I don't know if we have a content issue. We got all the things. We're good. I did not stick to the clock. I'm just saying it's miraculous that we finished all that up in such record time. I feel great about this.
What do you think the new name of the iTunes replacement app is going to be? Do we have a guess on this?
No, there is. Isn't it out there? Isn't there an actual answer available to that question?
No.
I believe it's going to be called Apple Music App 2.
App 2?
App 2, yes.
Well, here's the deal. I don't know if we should put the podcast up there on that one.
Well, yeah, I do think we should.
Under what premise do you feel that should be the case?
Under the premise that because you don't like something doesn't mean, 1.5 billion people also don't like it.
Yeah, it does. I'm a tastemaker, bro. You should know this about me.
Influencer.
You are the trendsetter.
Yeah.
The trendsetter, the barometer by which all else happens.
Yeah. I pretty much am the reason Billy McFarland exists and the Fire Guys.
Do you mean Billie Eilish?
She's great. She's so talented. It's just crazy.
Who's Billy McFarland?
Coulter, did you rip the packs open already?
Nope.
Okay. Hold tight on that.
Okay.
We're going to hold tight on that.
Are these paninis?
I was trying to get myself involved in the show. Hour 2.
Well,
go ahead, Tommy.
Nope. I'm done.
Okay, good. NBA basketball, Game 4, coming up in 2 hours from now. Pre-game begins 1 hour from now on ESPN Radio. And this is going to be one of the most interesting games ever to me. I find all that is at work going into this game truly fascinating when you talk about the 3 of 4 defending NBA champions down 2-1 at home. The return of Klay Thompson. How much is he going to be able to go? What will the attitude of both the Golden State Warriors and the Toronto Raptors be like? I have been completely impressed with Toronto at their unshakable mentality through all 3 games of this series, and I don't expect that to change. I don't expect that to change one bit. Well, does that translate to them winning this basketball game? I don't know. I told you beforehand, Colter, I told you before this went to Golden State. The only scenario I could not envision was Toronto winning both games in Oakland. Well, guess what? They got the first one. I certainly am picking Golden State once again to win this basketball game. If Toronto wins it, I guess I still can't say that it's over, but my goodness, what a wave that will make. And I said to you also, there is no such thing as home court advantage being taken until one team wins 2 games on the road. Toronto has the opportunity to do that now and just ensure themselves mathematically home court period regardless of what happens in the remainder of this series.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like every game in this series has to be analyzed within the scope of itself because
yes to that.
I also think that there's a certain element here where if you're the Raptors, you could honestly be mad at yourselves for not being up 3-0 in this series. And there's a legitimate chance that they could have been up 3-0, had a couple different things. Like if they could have just put a plug in the flooding that happened to open the third quarter of Game 2, maybe they're up 3-0. Who knows? But I do think that with the incremental potential for the return of certain players, each game becomes a new matchup, right? Each game, Klay Thompson or not Klay Thompson, it's a different team. It's a different matchup. It's a different way that both teams are going to play, with or without Kevin Durant, which I still think Kevin Durant's not coming back. I know they're saying he's scrimmaging and yada, yada, yada. I just don't believe it.
If this series went to a Game 7 and Kevin Durant had not played at all and then was available for Game 7, what would you do if you were Steve Kerr?
You play him. It depends on if you want to keep him. If you want to keep him, you play him. If you don't, you don't.
Okay. Let me just say, okay, for the record, I'm just going to speak. I'm not even going to speak to you about this. I'm just going to speak to the people about this. There is no such thing as wanting to keep Kevin Durant or not. There is only wanting to keep Kevin Durant, period.
Maybe.
100%. 100%. 100%.
If you had to make the choice between keeping Kevin Durant or keeping Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, what choice would you make?
Well, that wasn't the forwarded offering. I understand with Klay Thompson not getting on one of the first top 3 teams All NBA.
Yep.
The potential salary for the team next year would be like $350 million, which would be far and away the highest in the league. You'd be well into the luxury tax and all of that. If it comes down to Klay and Draymond or Kevin Durant, it's Klay and Draymond. But I don't know that the Warriors view it in that light. I mean, I think they want to have their cake and eat it too. And I think they believe that they could do that. But all of this, all along, has seemed like it's way more up to Kevin Durant than it is up to the team. Right?
Again, maybe. I really think this has so. I mean, I don't know. I don't think you can say that they definitely want to keep Kevin Durant. I get what you're saying, that he's, of course, you want to keep the best player in the NBA, but I don't necessarily know if Steph Curry wants to keep Kevin Durant or if Steve Kerr wants to keep Kevin Durant. I don't know.
I feel very confident in saying yes, they do. I mean, did you see Kevin Durant pumping up Steph Curry in the hallway before he's going down to the game?
I did.
You can make little of that. You can make a lot of that. Maybe there's not a lot to be said about that. But it certainly appears to be a guy that's very, very engaged in what's going on, even though he's staying, in the back. He's not sulking. He's not throwing anybody under the bus. He's not doing any of these things. And And I have never, ever heard one word from the Warriors themselves of disparaging or even non-comment. Like, it's not even about, like, look, man, we're teammates, we play together, we work together, that's what we do, we're professionals. It's not even what they say. Love KD. Can't wait for him to get back. Need him on the floor. That's what I hear from the Warriors. Now, I know about, look, if you were with Draymond Green each and every day for 8 months, you think you might have a fight with Draymond Green at some point?
Yes.
Maybe weekly. Would that mean that your relationship with him was bad? No, it would not. And I'm not saying that Draymond and Kevin Durant even like each other. Maybe they don't. But I do think that the team as a whole, Clay and Steph and Steve, think just fine of Kevin Durant, like Kevin Durant, and love having him as a player on that team. That's my impression of this. And there's just no question that if you could have Kevin Durant or not, yes, is the answer to that.
Well, regardless of any of this stuff, do you think the Warriors can win this series if neither Klay Thompson or Kevin Durant return?
Well, we already know Klay's return. I mean, he's playing tonight.
He's playing tonight,
yes,
for sure.
It's for sure. It's already been
How
announced.
I want to know what sort of strength he'll be at.
That's the big question.
Because you were debating the hamstring thing. It's like we talked about, man. Like, those tissue issues are way different than like a sprained ankle or anything like that, because you get it fully warm and one little weird movement, bam, pop, and you're out again. So even if he is playing, it doesn't mean he's going to play for a long time or that he's going to play well. It'd be interesting to see how he plays.
Let's say it like this. If Klay Thompson plays, which he's going to play, and is either ineffectual because of the hamstring or tweaks it and is out again, it's the pendulum swings to me squarely in Toronto's court. I wouldn't say it's impossible that the Warriors win in that situation, but I would say they become the huge underdog to me, especially already being down in the series.
Yeah, because you'd have to win the rest of the games, including twice in Toronto.
Well, if you presume that they lose, I mean, if they lose tonight, even with Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant back, I'm not so sure it's not Toronto favored to win the series. You got to win one game out of 3.
Totally.
So, I mean, this is, if it was any team other than Golden State, this would be the 100% must-win or series over game for a team down 2-1 at home. Because it's the Warriors, it isn't. I would not write them off even if they lost this game down 3-1. I will not write off the Golden State Warriors until it's over. I will not do it. But this puts them, if they can't come up with this one tonight. I mean, Game 3 was the one that Toronto had to have with Klay Thompson and Durant out. Had to have it, and they went and they got it. And I would say they got it pretty emphatically. This is the one that Golden State has to have. They haven't had to have one yet. They got to have it tonight at home, it seems to me. And I expect they'll go get it. But again, I can't overstate how impressed I am with Toronto. I mean, this, as I said before, all the games that Golden State's played for 5 years been about Golden State. Win or lose, been about the Warriors. This series is not that. This series has been equally, if not even more, about Toronto, aside from the injuries, of course, about Toronto and what they're doing than it has been about the Golden State Warriors. And that's a huge compliment to Nick Nurse, who I am still, I can't get there yet with him, but it's hard to deny what you're watching on this floor right now. I mean, they go through Philadelphia and Milwaukee, and now they're up 2-1 against the Warriors. It completely impressive.
Great article on ESPN.com today about 5 sort of happenstance or circumstantial things that happened over the last handful of years to help Toronto get to this point. The first one references when the Lakers laid off a bunch of their people, including Alex McKechnie, who was widely considered the greatest trainer in the NBA. Toronto hired him. Then the Nuggets decided they were going to cut some costs internally. So despite being the NBA Executive of the Year, Masai Ujiri did not get the contract extension he wanted, so he leaves and goes to Toronto, becomes the general manager there, builds what is now the roster, made a lot of bold moves that initially were maybe not as well received.
They were initially ridiculed flat out. Yes,
totally. Then this is the best one. 2014 season, Iman Shumpert was a hot trade commodity. This is before he blew out his knee, and it was signed, sealed, delivered that the Raptors were going to trade Kyle Lowry to the Knicks for Raymond Felton and Iman Shumpert. And Carmelo Anthony wanted Kyle Lowry so bad, and it was going to be this franchise-turning trade for the Knicks, and the Raptors were going to unburden themselves from this very volatile and emotional underachiever. Well, since then, Lowry's been an all-star, and this last 2 months has been an elite player. So it's just funny to think, what if that would have happened? The other circumstance they talk about was the fact that the Basketball Without Borders camps that a lot of the international guys host. Well, Pascal Siakam was dead set on walking away from basketball. And then the Basketball Without Borders camp in Africa that year was in South Africa, where his sister lived. So he wanted to go see his sister, so he decided to go to one more camp. Well, Serge Ibaka saw him there, and 4 years later, he's drafted in the NBA. I mean, that was the thing that led him to New Mexico State, which then led him to the NBA. It's just so crazy, like how none of this could have happened if just a few different decisions would have been made. Really fascinating to think about all that stuff. But I agree with you. What you said is just on point, because I do think that there's two separate pieces. I don't think they go hand in hand because these two teams are playing in a series, but I think that you cannot discredit Toronto for what they've done so far by bringing the circumstances of what the Warriors are going through into the equation. I think that they're two independent things. I do think the Warriors are different and not as good when they're shorthanded. That's obvious.
Sure.
But I don't think that has anything to do with the fortitude that the Raptors have shown. Well, would they be as confident if they were playing against, the four-headed superstar monster that the Warriors can roll out when they're fully healthy? Who knows? But I like to think that they would.
I completely agree with you. This is the lack of two elite, potential Hall of Fame level players is obviously significant, but it is not fully explanatory of what we're watching. Toronto deserves credit for a lot of the explanation of what we're watching, and I agree with you. And it's sometimes it's hard, sometimes it's not hard, but I think there are times at which guys are perfectly confident and they just can't overcome a great team. And then there's other times where you look out over there and you see Draymond and Steph and Clay and Kevin, and you go, not happening tonight. And there is no chance that Toronto would do that. No chance that that would happen to them. Could it happen that they all of a sudden, could it happen that Fred VanVleet goes 1 for 4 from beyond the arc instead of 4 for 7? Certainly. Because the defense is different, and because you got a 7-footer closing out on you on the outside instead of, a 6'6" guy. That changes things. But not for a second, when I watch Fred VanVleet out there, do I think that he all of a sudden is getting the shakes on open three-pointers because of who's standing on the floor. That ain't happening. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Want to do a couple things. Oh, go ahead. You wanted to say?
One more thing I wanted to ask here, I guess just something I wanted to talk about. The Raptors are in a different situation than pretty much every franchise in the NBA because there hasn't been too many expansion franchises over the last 30 years, right? I mean, the Timberwolves and the Raptors were the only two franchises that joined the league. I guess there was some shifting, right? I mean, the Hornets went to New Orleans, but then the Charlotte got an expansion team and the Bobcats. Regardless, there's only a few new franchises. But I think that there's very few players that are tied to a franchise like Vince Carter is tied to the Toronto Raptors. And I was just wondering what Vince Carter is thinking about all of this, right? I mean, there's
Vince Carter say something about helping the Warriors, something like that earlier this week, because he was saying that as like with the injuries, he's like, hey, I could be out there helping this team or something along those lines. But right, Vince Carter brought basketball in no small part to Toronto and thereby to Canada. I mean, what happened in Vancouver when they had the Grizzlies? Nothing.
Bye-bye.
They
a little different star power. Big Country Reeves
They
compared
got
to
Big
Vince
Country, and
Carter.
they became not a team anymore. It was Vince Carter that brought basketball to Toronto in a meaningful way. But here's the thing, though. He's still playing. You know?
Totally.
I don't think he's ready. When you're playing, and I don't care how old you are, I don't think legacy is something that's on your mind. It's about playing. That's why
Unless
he's
your
saying
name is LeBron James.
Well, it's a little different deal, yeah. That's true. All right, it's Tutel and Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Look, we got 45 minutes left, and we got a bunch of stuff to do. First of all, here in about 15 minutes, we have our friend Carolyn going to come on. She's a chick who's going to tell us about sports that doesn't know about sports. It's a segment we try and do every Friday. She has a good time with it. We're going to do it. We also are going to take another Father's Day caller, and we will do that right now. 329-1899, the phone number. You give us your best story about dad. Doesn't have to be a Father's Day story per se, just a story about dad, about your dad, about being a dad, whatever it might be. And you will be the last registrant for a stay-and-play getaway, which we will be giving away at the end of this show to Three Forks, to the Sacagawea Hotel, and a 2 rounds of golf, in fact, at the Headwaters Golf Club over there in Three Forks. So if you give us a call right now, 329-1899, give us your best story about dad, and you will be the last registrant. And then Coulter and I will filter through these things, and then we will be giving a surprise call at the end to the winner of that package. So 329-1899 if you'd like to get in. Right now, what we're going to do is sweeten the pot. Sweeten the pot a little bit. So you call in with your best story for dad, and you're also going to get what, Coulter?
We got a little grab bag here from our friends down at Zootown Sports Cards. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's a great place, whether you're an old school collector, an adult, you got kids, all sorts of things. Collecting is a great hobby. It's so fun. I love being back into it. But Zootown Sports Cards, 102 South Avenue East in Missoula. It's right there on the corner of Higgins and South. But if you give us a call right now, we have 4 packs for you. We got the O-Pee-Chee Platinum Hockey, which Ryan's going to open right here.
That's right. I'm going to
open.
We
got the Topps Gypsy Queens, which are a really cool new Topps release. We got some Panini Revolutions, which I opened on the show last time, which were great. And we got some Bowmans, which you opened on the show. Mm-hmm. And got some sleeves, too. So if you get some good ones, some valuable ones, you can keep your cards rolling along. So if you call 329-1899, come on, tell us a story about dad. And also,
cards, 4
packs of cards okay. And some sleeves. This is about a $35 value. So this is good stuff. And we're going to open a little pack ourselves. You got the O-Pee-Chees. Those are the new hockey releases. Those are cool.
I got the O-Pee-Chee hockey cards. So, and I'm going to take a quick look here. I'm going to shred, right?
Yeah. We're ripping. We're shredding.
Shredding packs here.
Jason.
Okay. So let's see what we can do. I have, Jake DeBrusk from the Stanley Cup playing Boston Bruins. Very good there. Maxime LaJoie from the Ottawa Senators. That's all right. A marquee rookie card. A marquee rookie card of Maxime LaJoie as well. How about that?
Nice.
A rookie card. And Lars Eller from my very own Washington Capitals.
Very good.
I say my very own.
Very nice. Got some good football ones here. These are the Panini Legacies. These are pretty cool.
Okay.
Got Alvin Kamara. Got Amari Cooper. Got Derek Carr. Darius Slay. Got an Ed Reed Legends card. That's a good one. Nice little insert. Got a limited edition Tremaine Edmonds from the Buffalo Bills. That's a cool one. Nice little insert. And 2 rookie cards. DeAndre Baker out of Georgia, who plays for the Cleveland Browns, and Jalen Ferguson out of Louisiana Tech, who plays for the who did he get drafted by?
Who?
I don't know. I don't know who he. Jalen Ferguson. I don't know who he plays for.
It's a rookie card?
It's a rookie card.
He didn't go to Buffalo, did he?
He might have gone to Buffalo. That might be it.
We'll have to take a look at that.
Regardless, here we are.
I got 2 rookie cards in the same pack of the same player.
That's impressive.
Is that good?
Yeah, you can trade one in.
I got a bunch of rookie cards from, or not rookie cards, but I got a bunch of hockey cards from Tucker Sargent. And so I'm going to add these to that group. Thank you very much. Very good. Here's the deal. Let's go to the phones. We welcome in Jason to the show Jason, you're on the Rangish Brothers RV hotline. How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How are you guys?
Doing very well, Jason. Now, first of all, are you a card collector?
I used to be when I was younger, but not really so much anymore.
Okay, well, guess what? You're getting back into it because you got
All
4
right.
packs of cards here, and we're going to set you up with those things. And you have an opportunity now to go do a little – are you a golfer? Do you like to play golf?
I prefer golf over golf, really.
Okay. See, you are not helping your cause here, Jason. You're supposed to say, oh, yes, the only 2 things I do are I open cards while I'm golfing. That's what you're supposed to say. Okay, so let's try this again. Are you a big golfer, Jason?
Absolutely.
Love to golf. Do you like to sleep?
Yeah.
Okay, Sacagawea Hotel, great beds. Okay, that's what I know for sure. You're gonna be sawing logs if you win the thing and get over there. So here we go. Tell us a story about Dad for the Father's Day Stay and Play giveaway. Let's hear it.
All right, so I was about 7 years old, and me and my dad were, I don't know, kind of wrestling around, playing around a little bit, you know.
Sure.
It was late. My mom was away at work. I remember, and so after wrestling, I was kind of running away from him a little bit, and he gave me a kick in the behind.
Yeah.
So I went to my room, and I was, you know, kind of planning how I was going to, you know, go mess with him again. And so I sneak out into the living room, and he liked to stand at the screen door, kind of with his hands behind his back and his legs spread and staring out into the night, you know.
Yeah.
And I snuck up behind him, and I went to go kick him in the behind, and I ended up kicking him right from where I came.
You were a little low.
Yeah, I just remember him bent over with his face red, and he was telling me to come here, and I was just shaking my head like, I am not going near you, and I went and hid in my room for the rest of the night.
Did he? Once he recovered, what happened? Were there repercussions to this?
No, he just laughed about it. He's a really good dad. And I love him and everything, you know.
Well, that is very. I mean, I'll tell you what. There's a lot of good dads out there that, in the moment, may not have been such good dads. You know what I'm saying? When you.
Oh yeah, I could see it in his face afterwards, and there was no way I was going to.
You knew you missed your target, and you didn't necessarily even know what that actually meant in the moment.
Yeah.
But it wasn't good, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Jason, it's a great story. It's a great story. Thank you for it. Give your information to Tommy, and we'll be giving away that Stay and Play. You did an admirable job of logging into that thing. Okay, we'll get you the cards no matter what, and then we'll be giving this thing away here in about 20 minutes. Okay.
All right. Thank you guys. Go Raptors.
Oh, we'll go Raptors. See, I feel like there's a lot of Raptors folks, and what I feel like is there's a lot of anti-Golden State folks.
Yep.
The pendulum has swung squarely away from the Golden State Warriors, and so everybody's on the Raptors for the series.
It's like a telling shift in society, right? Used to be that everybody jumped on the bandwagon of the winner. Now everybody jumped on the bandwagon of the team that they want to beat the perennial winner.
Well, maybe. I mean, underdogs always been a love story, right? With underdogs?
Sure.
I don't know that the Raptors, though, this is a lot more about Warriors hate than it is about, it's just the underdog in this series, though. You're right about that. Right about that. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. Quick break. On the other side, sports with a chick who doesn't know about sports. Carolyn. I feel like there's going to be a lot of Beyonce in this one next.
Canyon River Golf Club is a must for any golfer in western Montana. Tucked away in a spectacular setting along the Clark Fork River in East Missoula, Canyon River offers one of Montana's best championship golf experiences. And Canyon River is happy to announce their new fleet of golf carts, which include the Shark Experience, an interactive GPS giving dynamic distances and touchscreen interaction to help you play your best. Plus, with Bluetooth, radio, and surround sound, you can enjoy yourself between holes, too. Book online at CanyonRiverGolfClub.com. Missoula's best golf, Canyon River.
Alpine Alpine Touch has been providing you with the distinct seasonings you know and love for decades. Now, Alpine Touch has something to help you unleash the freshness of all the delicious flavors you need to spice up any meal. Check out Alpine Touch's new coarse grinds, unleashing the fresh taste of the garlic pepper or all-purpose seasonings to please any nose or taste bud. Coarse grinds can be purchased by the pound at retail locations around the state or at alpinetouch.com. Use the code ESPN10 at checkout to get 10% off any online order. Alpine Touch, Montana's special spice.
Les Schwab is proud to introduce two of our best tires ever, just in time for summer. There's our exclusive Reputation, a high-mileage premium passenger tire we believe has the quietest, most comfortable ride ever. Or our exceptionally quiet and smooth all-season traction tire, the Open Range AT. Get $50 off alignment when you purchase a set of 4 Open Range AT or Reputation tires. Book an appointment today at leschwab.com. Les Schwab Tires. Doing the right thing matters. Cannot be combined with other offers. Limited time only. See details at leschwab.com.
On Russell, across from the fairgrounds.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel, and I'm here with Josh of The Advocates. Josh, do most injury accidents end up in court?
Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court through a fair negotiation with an insurance company. However, sometimes it is necessary. I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get a fair settlement. Luckily, most personal injury cases can be settled out of court with a fair negotiation with the insurance company. However, I'm prepared to do whatever it takes to get the right settlement for you.
It's Josh at The Advocates, 640-4444, or online at montanaadvocates.com.
You're a big league fan. You expect big league service. At the Desperado, you get exactly that. With 35 flat screens, ice-cold brews on tap, and Missoula's #1 wings, you're free to sit back and enjoy every pitch. This summer, make the Desperado your baseball home away from home. Cool off after work, relax on the weekends, soak in some great food and drinks, and watch your team make yet another great push for October. And hey, if yours can't do it, there's plenty of other teams and fun to go around at the Desperado Sports Tavern on South Russell across from the Y.
Still emerging from your winter hibernation and need to get your bearings straight? Cruise on down to Port of Missoula for all your spring and summer needs. Come check out their men's and women's streetwear, sunglasses, and shoes from brands like Vans, Adidas, Thrasher, Volcom, and the original Port of Missoula brand. They also have all your skating needs covered, from tune-ups to fresh-made custom boards. Port of Missoula, Missoula's original board shop since 1989, on the Hip Strip, 618 South Higgins.
ESPN Missoula Sports Center.
Good evening, Ryan Tutel. Colton Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Sports Center. Chris Murray's career as a Bobcat is finished. The electric yet sporadic Montana State quarterback missed the 2018 season due to academic ineligibility. During the 18-19 academic year, Murray was not able to restore that eligibility. He officially left the team this week, as an MSU official confirmed. Murray's name was removed from the Montana State roster Friday, along with Tyrell Burgess and quarterback Jalen Cole.
Murray was one of just 3 quarterbacks in Big Sky Conference history to rush for more than 1,000 yards in a single season. He rushed for more than 100 yards 5 times as a sophomore in 2017 alone, including posting a second straight 100-yard game against the rival Grizzlies. Murray's career included a bunch of ups and downs, but the peak came with back-to-back wins over rival Montana.
4 Grizz and 3 Bobcats earned their way onto the Hero Sports preseason All-American teams. UM senior linebacker Dante Olson and junior special teams ace Jace Lewis were on the first team. MSU Do Everything junior Troy Anderson was on the first team as an all-purpose player, along with senior Mitch Brott as an offensive tackle on that first team. Robbie Houck landed on the second team defense for the University of Montana, while junior wide receiver Sammy Akem joined MSU sophomore running back Isaiah Ifonse on the third team.
And finally, Hannah Fowler finished her career with a 17th place finish in the women's hammer throw at the NCAA Outdoor Track and Field Championships.
He said, I've been watching you, Dad, ain't that cool? I'm your buckaroo, I wanna be like you and eat all my food and grow as tall as you are. We got cowboy boots and camo pants, yeah, we're
Okay, now, sometimes one leads to another, and that's what's happened here with the Father's Day stories, the dad stories. It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio. We are broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy, online at kurtzpolaris.com. Now, we just registered Jason, and he was going to be our final entrant on the Father's Day giveaway stay-and-play package over there to Three Forks at the Sacagawea Hotel. But Gabe wanted to get in. He said, I got a story. You got to have it. So here we go. We go back to the phones. We welcome in Gabe to the show. Hi, Gabe. Go ahead. How are you?
I'm excellent. How you guys doing?
Doing well, man. What's up?
Just coming home from work, listening to you guys every day.
Appreciate that.
You're on my same schedule.
Hey, that's what we want to be. You know what I mean? Let us come to your world. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Not the other way around. All right, so you got a story about Dad here?
You being a hunter, I figured you would appreciate this one, but it's probably my favorite story with the old man.
I'm already happy about this.
So I live in Hamilton. He lives in Idaho, but he makes it out here every year to archery hunt with me for whitetail does. It's only $75 for an out-of-state whitetail doe. So he comes in. I've got a pretty good spot, and we have some good bonding time.
Well,
but
and
anyway,
it's tough too because there's not that many whitetail does out there.
Yeah, especially down here, they're hard to come by.
I think like 100 million. I think is what the state population is. So good choice on
I
that.
believe it. So this particular time, he's hunting in his ground blind. I'm in my tree stand, and I see him make a pretty good, easy, close shot on this deer. And there's no blood, none whatsoever, and except for on the arrow. One of those phantom shots, and he's scratching his head, and we're looking, and he's getting frustrated and upset, and he can't figure out how he missed or didn't miss, but there's just enough sign that he did hit it. And anyway, he goes one way, I go the other, and I find this deer. Great shot, just one of the weird high, a little bit higher placement. It didn't bleed.
Yeah.
Anyway, the deer's dead, so I decide I'm going to put one over on my old man. I drag the deer to his truck and put it on the other side of his truck so you can't see it, and then loop back around and come back up. And I told my old man to get his crap and let's go. And he looks at me like, I cannot believe my son is talking me to this way.
Right.
And I go, I bring you to my hunting spots. You missed deer. You wound my deer. We're out of here. I've had enough of you in my hunting spots. And he was livid.
Yeah, I'll bet he was. Yeah.
I know I hit that animal. I'm like, obviously not very good. You suck at bow hunting. Let's go. So as my dad was trying to, he's throwing his backpack. He's grabbing his bow. Like it was all I could do to just to maintain, right? Anyway, doesn't say a word to me the whole trip out, the whole hike out. It's about 1.5 miles. And then comes around the corner of his truck and sees this deer laying on the side of, by his passenger door.
Yeah.
And he you son of then a few more words that aren't radio appropriate followed that.
A good self-edit by you there.
Yeah. I figured. Anyway, I love telling that story, and you should have seen my father's face and how I'm not going to talk to my son for another year turned to complete joy.
Yeah, right. Well, that's the thing is you can't all of a sudden try to wear the pants if you don't have a good option on the back, the backside of that, which is you got the deer. Nice work, Dad. We can get out of here. We got it. You bagged
it. It was a good shot, Dad. I got you. I found your deer for you.
Gabe, great story, man. Thanks for calling. Thanks for putting it in. Give your information to Tommy. All right. Very good. All right. 6 entrants now, Colter. Been doing it all week. We got Gio, Josh, Marley, Ken, Jason, and now Gabe all in. And we're going to do some conferencing here and make a call coming up here in about 15 minutes or so. But it is time now for our weekly segment called Sports with a chick who doesn't know about sports with our friend Carolyn. It's time once again, one of our favorite features each Friday. We bring in our dear friend Carolyn, who is a chick that does not know about sports, for a segment we call Sports with a chick that doesn't know sports. Hi, Carolyn.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. It's
okay.
Friday. School's out.
Yes.
It's time to party.
When you say school's out, you're like, you mean out?
My kids are out.
Whoa.
I think. I mean,
okay.
they didn't go to school today.
Well, neither did mine.
Maybe they tricked you.
Wouldn't that
That's right.
be the most epic trick ever.
Okay. It's a Friday. We like to have some fun around here. Well, even on the other days, but particularly when we're headed into a weekend. And I know that you've been keeping your ear to the railroad track, as they say. Is that a thing? Am I getting that right?
I've never heard it.
Anyway, what in the world is going on the world of sports this week, Carolyn?
Well, it's been a quiet week. Dennis Rodman has not been arrested. So that's a bummer. And I haven't seen Drake dancing in the sidelines.
No. Drake has been much quieter. I mean, the series has been in Oakland, so it's a little tougher for him to get down on the sideline.
He doesn't have a PJ?
I think he does have a PJ. Thank you. But I don't know that the Warriors are ready to give him courtside seats at their home arena.
I assumed it was just part of the whole Toronto entourage that he could just be in that.
Just go sit with the team.
Right.
Yeah, see, that's what I think he thinks that he can do, but he can't.
I'm hoping next year he just dresses up as the Toronto mascot.
Raptor.
And he's just Raptor. I mean, it would be perfect. And then he could just go out and do flips and like dunk and get on the trampoline.
Yeah, no, he could do all of that.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
Drake could have a second career as a rap.
You think Drake would like to move up in the world to be the mascot for his favorite NBA team?
I just think you guys are both so corny.
I think he already is that.
How dare you? And by the way, my dream job is to be a mascot. It would be
Is
so
that right?
fun.
Well, a couple University of Montana graduates are professional mascots right now.
I know.
A Missoula native, I can't tell you his name because it's a secret, but he is the mascot for the Houston Rockets.
Mm-hmm.
What? Interesting. Well, one of them is Benny the Bull, which is also my son's nickname.
Benny the Bull is his nickname?
Yeah, well, his name's Ben, so we call him Benny the Bull.
Benny the Bull.
Is he bull-like?
No. I don't know why we call him. I know why we call him that. It has nothing to do with sports, though. It's Dora the Explorer. Delete this. Anyway.
Ryan's daughter is Dora the Explorer. Maybe Benny the Bull and Zoe should meet.
They should.
Yeah, that'd be cute. Anyway.
Wouldn't it?
So I haven't seen Drake, so that's been a bummer.
What have you seen? Have you seen anything?
Beyonce gave some side-eye to some lady in thigh-high boots.
Oh, yeah, I heard about that.
So I don't know.
Did you see this, Coulter?
Is this the dumbest story ever?
Yeah, 100%.
Beyonce asked, okay, so Beyonce and Jay-Z are at the game with one of the Warriors owners. Apparently they have 19 of them at this point because one guy's getting suspended. The guy who I thought owned the Warriors is not either of these guys have been in the news. But according to this woman, she asked Beyonce, would you like something to drink? Beyonce says, sure. And then she leans over and asks Jay-Z if he wants something to drink. There's a picture of it, and Beyonce's giving her
side-eye
devil glare. And because of Lemonade and all this stuff, Jay-Z cheated on Beyonce, Queen Bee, this woman just got ripped to shreds.
Well, did you see her outfit? I mean, I think that's what Beyonce was actually.
When's the last time somebody famous wore a good outfit?
Well,
seems like they're all just
Beyonce's
clown
outfit.
shows.
It was the other lady. She had these thigh-high gold boots on. It was awful. So I bet Beyonce was like, girl, what are you wearing?
Do you make anything into they were flirting and now Jay-Z's going to go cheat on her with the Warriors?
No. I think Jay-Z is on a tight leash, and Beyonce has got that locked down.
Can you actually put someone like Jay-Z on a tight leash?
If you're Beyonce, you can.
Good point.
Yeah.
What would you wear if you were sitting courtside at a Warriors game?
Ooh, I'd be in the cutest outfit. I don't know what that is, but I would not be in thigh-high boots. I'd be in something super cute that doesn't that I don't have to like pull up over my mom belly. And
I'll quote Jay-Z, I'll be forever stunting. I believe that is, if we go into the archives, you can find that laid down as like an irrevocable fact about Jay-Z that he says about
what
himself.
What does that mean?
Well, I'll leave it to you. It does apply to this particular situation. And here's the thing, like, when you're double dating, did they go to the game together or did they just happen to get seats next to one another?
I doubt she would be trying to buy the people drinks if they just were like random friends, right?
Well, I'm sorry.
Of course you would.
If I was sitting next to Jay-Z and Beyonce, I'd be buying them drinks all night.
First of all, if you're in those seats, are you buying drinks?
No.
Haven't you bought the drinks by owning the teams that you own? Doesn't it come with a free Bud Light? For God's sake, you got to pay $8 for the Bud Light when you paid $40 million for 3% of the team?
Those seats, too, we read on Twitter last night, those seats are $57,000 a piece.
Disgusting. There are starving children in this world. And also, I don't think Beyonce drinks Bud Light, but that's just my opinion.
She drinks lemonade.
She drinks lemonade.
Hey!
Ayo!
All day. Am I doing your job for you right now, Carolyn? Is that what's happening? Am I the dude that doesn't know sports, screaming about what's cool in the
No,
People
that's called
magazine?
To Tell Nuanez.
Oh, right.
That's every day from 4 to 6 p.m. on 102.9.
Anyway. Yeah, I don't know what to say about this.
All I know is Beyonce, I think she was just looking over like, girl, get me a Tito's and lemonade and some popcorn. And then everybody thought she was side-eyeing. And I don't think anyone would hit on Jay-Z in front of Beyonce.
Oh, I think you're wrong about that.
What?
Yeah.
No way. Anyway, moving on.
Hova? He's getting hit on.
Who?
No doubt about that. What? Are you stabbing me in my throat with a screwdriver while we're trying to do this segment?
Carol, what else you got?
So I guess some owner, was it the Warriors, that pushed a player and had words with him. So did he push a Toronto player?
Yes.
Why?
Because the Toronto player jumped into the front row after a basketball, and then he pushed him and swore at him as a I don't know why. I can't tell you why.
Don't understand it. And I feel like if you're going to sit courtside, you're going to run the risk of getting trampled by a basketball player.
Yes.
And that's kind of the fun of it, right?
Coulter, what are you doing back here? You're not participating.
I am. I'm just listening to the banter.
I just think that Kyle Lowry, got shoved for. Well, I mean, he's an owner of the team. No, it was an absurd thing for him to do. Have you seen it yet, Coulter? You said you hadn't seen it. Have you seen it?
I'm such a bad judge on this stuff because to me, he touched him. He did not shove him.
I agree. I don't think he shoved him, and I think but he did have words. I saw a furrowed brow, and I saw some words come out of his mouth.
He with one hand placed it on Kyle Lowry and pushed him away and shoved him. Yes, he did shove him.
On you and you kind of...
First of all, he didn't even fall on him. He reached over to touch him and shove him angrily. Point is, he wasn't defending himself. He wasn't even trying to do anything other than be aggressive towards the player for no reason whatsoever. Nobody's arguing that it was
a statement yet?
No, not that I'm aware of. He's been banned for a year, which he should be because he's an owner.
I agree.
He has a stake in the team. It's not just a dude out there doing this.
It's not like just Drake.
Neither of these things would be issues if it wasn't 202019.
Oh my gosh,
snap.
Coulter, you are a Neanderthal.
Do you think
you're a complete Neanderthal?
Self-proclaimed.
Me too. Do you think that's the situation?
No, I just think that there's no way that anybody would be getting mad at Beyonce or Jay-Z if we didn't have people with cell phones and Instagram. And the guy hardly touched Kyle Lowry. He should just not be such a wuss.
That is the ice coldest take that you've ever had on this show. That is so absurd. It's beyond words absurd.
I think if you sit courtside, you have a responsibility to keep your hands
to yourself. And if you're an owner, you have a responsibility to keep your hands to yourself while the guys are playing basketball. You can't be aggressive towards another team in any way whatsoever to another guy, to another player on the team when you're sitting over here in your polo shirt.
So then what
Get
about
him out of here.
Drake, who was picking lint out of Steph Curry's hair a couple weeks ago.
Now, Drake's a whole different thing.
Giving massages to Nick Nurse in the huddle.
This only crosses the threshold because he's an owner. If he was just a guy who paid his $58,000 to go sit courtside and did this, he gets ejected from the game. See you later. That's the end of it. This is a whole different thing.
There's an accountability.
Yes.
When you're an owner.
Yes.
I agree. Jeez, you're passionate about it.
Great segment, Carolyn. Going into the weekend in a better mood. We're giving away a stay and play package next.
Montana's first and only indoor urban axe throwing facility is open and ready for you to get your axe down here. Lumberjacks Throwing Company, located kitty corner to Draftworks Brewing, is the perfect spot for dates, team building, bachelor parties, or just to blow off some steam after work. Their axe coaches are here to teach you the safety and technique of axe throwing and to get you sticking the axe in no time. Check them out on Facebook or at lumberjacksthrowingcompany.com to book your experience today. Get your axe down here.
We ate a lot of steaks before we came up with the Montana Club's Private Reserve Cut Angus. It's as good a steak as you're going to get. Our Private Reserve Cut Angus is specially cut for us. And with our custom seasoning, it has a flavor that's absolutely incomparable. We're confident that it will satisfy the most discriminating steak customer for an unrivaled steak experience. Real Montana, real food. The Montana Club on Brooks and North Reserve, Missoula.
Hey folks, Ryan Tutel here, and I'm with Josh from the Advocates Injury Attorneys. Josh, if our listeners have been injured in an accident, how can you help?
We're here to help you after a car accident by negotiating with insurance companies, recovering lost wages if you have any, and even getting you into a rental car if you need one. Call us today for a free consultation, and we'll get started.
We know shopping local matters, but we also know that you're going to pay more for the quality and customer service that comes with it. Well, not at Selway Armory. Selway Armory is locally owned with a staff of specialists that can answer any question. In addition to the expertise, though, Selway Armory also has a bigger selection and, are you ready, lower prices than the box stores. When you're in the market for firearms and accessories, save money with the experts at Selway Armory. Selway Armory, 2825 Stockyard Road, Unit E6, and online at selwayarmory.com.
This is Mike Nugent with Berkshire Hathaway Home Services. Berkshire Hathaway provides Western Montana with full-time real estate professionals for you whenever you need us. Our reputation as the state's most knowledgeable and available real estate group has helped build unmatched trust in the Garden City and statewide. If you have been thinking of making a real estate move in the short or long term, give me a call. No pressure, no expectations. Just professional opinions and service at whatever pace you are comfortable with. Give me, Mike Nugent, a call today, 531-1802. And remember, every question is good to ask.
Nothing says Florence coffee like a real huckleberry smoothie. Our real huckleberry smoothies are made with real huckleberries that grow high up on the mountainsides of Montana. Drive to any of our Flowco locations throughout western Montana and try a delicious real huckleberry smoothie. And visit us at florencecoffeeco.com.
The best flavor under the big sky. Florence Coffee Company.
Tutel and Nuanez on 102.9 ESPN Radio for Missoula.
Pretty little thing, let me light your candle, cause mama, I'm sure all the hand and this around.
I've heard that chorus probably, I don't know, 6,500 times in my life. Still got no idea what he said. The Hanana Disara? No clue.
Do you like the Black Crowes?
I like this song, and here's what I'd say. I think I like the Black Crowes. I probably don't know enough of the Black Crowes to say that I do or I don't like them, but yeah, I'm amenable to the Black Crowes. Great track. Fun. Just got no idea what he says.
Calls mama, I'm sure all the hand and this around.
What part don't you know?
All of it.
Hey, little babe, let me light your candle, because mama,
No,
you're
don't
sure
ruin it
hard to
for me.
handle.
Don't ruin it for me. Hanana Disara.
Tommy, do you like the Black Crowes?
I can't say I like them because I only know one song.
Seems like a common theme.
Yeah, dude. It's that
big problem for the guy who's going to be playing music on the trail for 24 hours a day the next 100 days.
Well, I go deeper than that, Coulter.
Hey, I like that Bears Den album you gave me.
Isn't that amazing?
It's very melancholy and soft, just like you, but it's also very good.
Okay, now here's the thing. You got to wedge in the little insult.
I'm just trying to get myself back on track, okay?
You have been.
I threw out my back, and the only way it makes me, I'm at the end of the day, I'm just a bully, and the only way I feel better is if I just absolutely antagonize you two, because you're my two favorite people in the world to antagonize. You want to know why? Because you're not soft. You actually are hard. You're two of the greatest smack talkers that ever lived, and it's the greatest thing about both of you.
I'm telling you this because I love you. You got to step up the game if you're actually trying to be a bully, because your insults suck.
It's Tutel Nuanez, 102.9 ESPN Radio, broadcasting live from the Kurtz Polaris studios. Kurtz Polaris at 2904 West Broadway in Missoula, Highway 83 in Sealy. Online at kurtzpolaris.com. If you missed anything in the show, check it out on the podcast. It's Tutel Nuanez podcast. It's available on all podcasting platforms. It's available on the station website. And it is there thanks to the Wingate by Wyndham Hotel. You'll check that thing out. Blackfoot in there as well. We appreciate it. You'll say what's up on the internet, as it were.
Should we give away more stuff?
Yeah. You mean more than a stay and play?
Well, we're going to give away a stay and play, too. And we'll give away 2 next week.
Yeah.
Tommy wasn't back there on a normal Alpine Touch giveaway. I know everybody loves that because, we've done it forever, and we'll just give a little mention. Cheers to the Alpine Touch guys. We'll give away two deals next week. We've only given away 4 million bottles of Alpine Touch on this show.
We'll talk more about this. If you make a bad spice, okay, you couldn't stay in business 6 days.
It's true.
Okay.
And Alpine Touch makes the best spice.
It's remarkable, the consumption that exists. Actually, it's not remarkable because when you taste it, you know. All right, it's time for our Stay and Play giveaway. It's our Father's Day giveaway. It's to the Sacagawea Hotel in Three Forks with a round of golf for two. We have made a final determination on our winner, and we're going to give that person a call. Tommy, would you like to do that? What do you think? You like our chances?
Hello.
Hello, is this Jason? Hello? Hello, is Jason there?
I can kind of hear him. It sounds like double audio, though, Tommy. Might need one more button.
Yeah, or we got a cutout thing going on. How about now? Jason, do you have us?
Yeah, I have.
Hey, there he is.
Jason, this is Tutel Nuanez on our high-tech phone equipment.
Live on the radio.
Live on the air, yeah. Bear that in mind. Do you know who we are?
Yes, I do know who you are.
Okay, because we spoke about 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And we're not calling you because you were a very recent caller. We're calling you because we liked your story very much.
All right.
And we wanted to say congratulations. You have won our Father's Day giveaway. We liked your, sometimes one of the things that can be hard about radio is describing a thing in terms that are different from the way you would normally describe them,
right,
in the interest of tact.
And censorship.
And censorship and all of those things. And speaking about, incidentally, as a 7-year-old, kicking your father in the place where you came from was, I thought, excellently done by you. That made us all very happy. I thought the calls this week, Ken was outstanding on Wednesday, speaking about
the most unlikely hole-in-one.
Hole-in-one. I thought Gio on Monday was great, starting us off. We had Morley in here, who was sweet as always. But Jason, maybe, I don't know if it's recency bias. My friend, you are going to go to Three Forks to the Sacagawea Hotel. You get to pick whoever you'd like to. It could be your dad. It could be somebody else, whoever you want. You go over there, you play some golf, you open some baseball cards, and you sleep soundly in one of the iconic hotels in the state of Montana. Does that sound all right to you?
That sounds absolutely amazing.
Okay. Congratulations, my friend. Very well done. And if you think radio might be in your future, you're off to a good start because you've done what you needed to do there by circumventing the normal language you might have used.
Yeah. All right. Thank you guys so much.
You got it.
I am super excited.
Woo.
I am super excited.
Glad to hear it.
Congratulations.
Pick up your gift certificate and your baseball cards all at the same time.
There you go. That's right. Two and one. We'll be in touch with you on information on what you need to do next. All right.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Very well done. Okay.
Shout out to our friends at the Sacagawea Inn as well.
Yep.
It's a great promotion that they sponsored for us. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Haley and the ladies over there. Very well done.
This is our first time with them, and it's been a lot of fun and cool to get started. A lot of times we're heading west.
Yeah, right.
So it's great to head east.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So
I'm excited to hear the feedback from that because that's a great hotel. I've stayed there a couple of times. If you ever get a chance to go stay at the Sacagawea, it's really old, which is what's cool about it. It's very historic, but also just like the super sweet, comfy beds, and it's a great venue for all sorts of events. I've been to weddings out there. It's really fun. The restaurant there, delish.
It is nice that they replaced the cots that originally came with the hotel to
sometimes historic hotels are also historic.
Right. You could end up in Wallace, Idaho, and go
right, and you get the experience, but it's not necessarily the plush bed. Like these are 21st century beds in the 19th century venue. It's
the building
it's sweet.
To be historic, maybe not the bed to be that historic.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I've had some
the
great times in the
history
Sacagawea, though. I love it. I love Three Forks.
It's spectacular. Spectacular area.
I would
the
actually
headwaters of the Dagam Missouri River, for crying out.
I would actually say, if you asked me the best meal I've ever eaten in my life, if I had to pick one, I think it was at the Sacagawea.
Is that right?
I really do.
That's
outstanding.
That's
I was on Easter Sunday several years ago with my mother and her friend Kit and my brother and his wife. It was outstanding, excellent.
Coulter, that's now. I mean, you're getting me on this because you've had some good meals.
I have.
So okay. Couple minutes left here, Coulter. One thing that we didn't do yet that I really did want to do quickly. The Blues win Game 5 of the NHL Final last night. Very controversial, a non-call. If you didn't see it, here's what it is. It's Rams-Saints NFC Championship game, non-call, caliber non-call. It's an unmistakable. I mean, even for sometimes it's hard for me to pick up fouls and penalties in the NHL. It's moving quickly and maybe not as obvious to the fan at home. Okay, well, what is charging? I don't totally. What, he took one extra skate before he hit the guy? I don't get it all. This is the most unmistakable trip that you could possibly imagine. And it goes uncalled. And 5 seconds later, the biscuit's in the basket, as they say, for the St. Louis Blues, who at the moment went up 2-0. They end up winning the game 2-0. Nonetheless, St. Louis, they're up 3-2 in the series going home. The Stanley Cup will be in the barn Sunday evening in St. Louis for Game 6 of the Stanley Cup Final. And we'll see if Boston's able to physically but more mentally recover from this. And the referees are very much under fire. I would think that the Boston Bruins will be given every opportunity to be successful in Game 6 when it comes to a call-non-call situation. And that is kind of what it is, especially in a sport. Football, you got a ton of penalties, basketball, fouls all the time. There's a handful of penalties per game in hockey. So each one is more significant, and they tend to weigh themselves out over the course of a series more than over the course of a game, though presumably within a game as well. But if you're following along at home, significant. Other than that, Game 4 tonight, Colter. As we finish up with this, we're going to send you out to the pregame and then to Oracle for Game 4 of the NBA Finals here on ESPN Radio. Feet to the fire. What is going to happen tonight? Who you got? Klay Thompson making his return, albeit we don't know exactly what he's going to be. I think he's going to play Klay-like. I think he's going to be physically well enough to go big minutes.
I mean, it's a pivotal moment for the NBA as a whole, because if Toronto really does win this, it alters the complete narrative of this series, because even with the Raptors taking 2 out of the first 3, which was sort of unlikely, if they take control 3-1, and it puts it to where they only have to win one of their remaining 2 home games or one of the 3 remaining games, that's significant. And I think it will have an influence on a whole bunch of different things. I can't see the Warriors losing Game 4 at home. I think this is going back 2-2 to Toronto. It's going to be a 3-game series.
I think you're right, and I hope you're right, because I would love this to go 7. I would love it to go 7. Boys and girls, enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the games. We'll talk to you on Monday. Hey, Cubs beat St. Louis.